Good afternoon. Good afternoon. How you guys doing today? I thought I might share words of wisdom, words of encouragement today. I haven't really came on live, right? Other than me playing games live, streaming live. Um, Words of encouragement. You see, the life we live is complex but yet simple. Now, there's many explanations to how you might perceive that aspect of thought that I am talking about. You see, the different components that we have is our physical, mental, and spiritual. And everybody has their favorite part that they use. Some may use their mental, some may use their physical, and some may use their spiritual. And all components have keys to open certain advantages in life for you. Now, we all know that God created us and He is spiritual power source, the ultimate power source. Now, a lot of people, right, can say, well, what has God done for me? How do I know God exists? And how come, right, He has not helped me? Right before, because maybe you're going through rough times or you had things good before, but all of a sudden things changed. You see, I want you to understand that our life that we are living, right, is a test. That is why some parts of it is called testimony. So you go through things and then you get to a certain level of understanding. And then what happens is you are able to attest to it. You're able to then teach others your explanation, your thoughts, your process of what you've been through. And this helps others to evolve and grow in their troubles of life. God exists simply because He did create us in His image. He is existent, He is there. Anything good that you see, there's also a bad version of it. Like, for example, there is disturbance that takes place in your life. And sometimes spirits and demons and entities, right, tries to use these distractions to confuse your progress, to make sure that you don't grow in your aspect because they're spending all their time trying to contain you so that you won't elevate to the next level. However, you have to persevere. You have to keep going. You have to keep excelling simply because you are not there to represent, right, what people's thoughts are. You're there to represent God. He is there either way, however you see Him. He's there. And He created both good and bad. You know why? Because He wants you to have a choice. He wants you to understand that His power is far beyond, and that the power within you is, you know, directly from Him. So once you understand the power of God and the fact that He wants you to elevate, He wants you to grow, He wants you to evolve, then you will be able to comprehend the process and the thoughts that He gave you. You see, many prophets in the Bible, what happened was they went through trials and tribulation. And when they went through trials and tribulation, first they didn't have God, and then they had God. There's a difference. Developing a relationship with God. Understand that if you do not, you will develop a relationship with the enemy. It doesn't matter. Because you see, God is the center of everything. If you choose to worship Him, if you choose to respect Him, whatever you choose to do, understand that He has ownership of everything. So we can understand it from our physical perspective about ownership of everything, meaning that regardless whichever way or whichever avenue you take, you will still arrive in front of God. That's the main important thing. Because you see, in our lives, right? Sometimes you may have a boss and you work for a company and you say, you know what? You may not get along with the boss or the company. And so you want to go somewhere else and work for a different company. You have the choice. And when you do, there is no consequences, right? Because it's still a choice of yours. However, whichever avenue that you take, right, you will end up in front of God, except for God, right, has commandments. And you see, you notice that He gave the commandments and then He gave the people judgment, meaning that now I can assess you. So taking 40 days, right, to create 10 commandments and giving it to Moses on Mount Sinai, and then saying to Moses, go and then give it to the people. And I will give the people time so that they can analyze and understand my ways. And my ways are in the commandments. And so that was a deep process and a very strong spiritual process. Now, what happens when you go against that now? Now you are going against the laws of God, like the guide, because He's giving you a guide and saying, okay, you are in fact in an environment that you don't quite understand. And you may think you understand it because you were born here and you may lived here and you might have experienced, but on the spiritual side, there are entities, principalities that are far more wise than you. They know exactly the movements that you're making. And I know what they don't like because I am far more powerful because I created them. And so the fact that the knowledge of God shows that He created everything and that He knows in advance what these principalities, entities, and demons of higher playing fields are all about. He knows this. He'll give the rules to the people so that the people are able to then combat what is taking place. We know about what is happening in the world. Now, these things took place simply in the Bible. There's nothing new under the sun. If it took place in the Bible, then that means it's going to take place physically because the Bible is the manual guide for everything in the world, not just the world, the universe, whether it's physical side, mental side, and spiritual side. And mainly spiritual because our spiritual is forever. That means it's far beyond. And I believe what is written in the Bible is not the final. It is the final process and instructions for the physical aspect of things, not the spiritual, because the spiritual is eternal and is forever. So everything, there's a good side to it and there's a bad side to it, right? It's just like this. You can't wear 4 pants at a time. right? You wear one pant leg at a time. You wear one pants, you know, at a time to feel comfortable. One shirt at a time. Everything is one at a time, right? So understand that God gave those instructions. God gave the levels of knowledge. So imagine God having all this source of knowledge and then embedding every single person to make a choice of their own. Any direction that you look at, God is the final sequence of that. So whether you know Him, whether you don't know Him, you arrive in front of God. And at the end of the day, you want to say, God, the abilities, the knowledge, the wisdom that you embedded in me, I have multiplied it. I have helped so many people with it, and they found their way to you. It is like God's going to show you the way, and then when He shows you the way, right, you take the way, and then you go show it to others, and then others will also be shown the way. And this is a blessing to everybody because you see, you don't want to wait until things take place and then you don't know how to explain it. You don't want to wait until certain ways of life that has put God last to fail in order for you to say, you know what, maybe I should think of different ways to see happiness or to be happy. You know, to be happy is to know God because He's the one that created you. He's the one that keeps you healthy. He's the one that has a resting place for you. What happens physically, as you can see, right? It's not the permanent situation, but it's also God is always looking at the decision you choose to make. What choices in what positions do you make these choices in? Meaning that when you have it all, right, to your level of desire, what do you do with that desire? Or when you don't have it all, what do you then do? Do you seek Him only when you're in trouble? Or do you seek Him all the time? Or when it's good? Either way, you need to do it both times, good and bad, because He chose to keep you alive. By being alive, you still have a chance. God's not going to judge you on how good of an athlete you were or how good of a scientist you were or any of those things that you physically do in order to keep yourself happy. He's going to judge you based on the happiness that you try to give to others, to help others. The knowledge and wisdom that you have. Were you selfish? Did you keep it to yourself? Did you actually know the blessings and the peace? Did you try to grow that peace by helping others to understand? Because guess what? To this day, when you are sleeping, you don't know when you're going to wake up exactly. Do you see what I'm saying? Now, what have you left? What mark have you left? Because you see, your life is important to others, but have you made yourself important to God? How you make yourself important to God is not just spending time with God. It's utilizing the abilities that God has given you in order to bring people. Every time it says in heaven that every single time somebody turns away from their sins and they start to worship God and they accept God, right? the whole heaven praises and has what's it called? A party. They feast. They're happy. It's joy. Now you tell me. So then what does that mean? It means the happiest time is when your abilities that God has given you, you start to share it to others so that it will enlighten them. That means you're igniting their candle within them to create flames that is a burning flame that is of good, so that that will help them, and not only them, because now they're going to share the joy of knowing God from their unique perspective, and so that they are able to then also grow. Because guess what? We as humans learn from others. We learn from examples, how things are. You see what I'm saying? And guess what? Whatever we are seeing, whatever is being anticipated on a daily basis, all these things are influential. Now you must understand, what change are you bringing to the world? What difference are you making from what you have? You see, faith is about your creativity. Faith is about you doing without knowing. You see what I'm saying? This is a choice that everybody has to make. Just like everybody has to choose to sleep, everybody has to choose to do right or wrong. All of them have choices, but the ones you make have the consequences for not just you, sometimes society, community, wherever. All of them have influential, whether it's good or bad. They all have some type of influence. So you can choose to be the best person and to behave in the best perspective way. You can choose not to and bring harm and cause. Because guess what? God sees what you have done with what you have. And what are you trying to do? You see, you can't truly sell your soul to the devil. Because guess what? The souls do not belong to what? The devil. It does not belong to him. Matter of fact, his soul does not even belong to him. Do you see what I'm saying? But to entrap your soul, that means your soul being captured for a time being and getting used how they want it can be done. But to give your soul that does not belong to you means that it's false. People do go and say, well, they're going to sell their soul. They have sold their soul, and that they can't talk about Jesus Christ. They can't talk about Yahweh, the Messiah. They can't do none of those things. But at the end of the day, the peace, they don't have peace because now they're more enhanced physically. The entities and demons and principalities that live in them is using them to move forward with their expression. But know that God is on one side and the other side. One side have good consequences, the other side of God has bad consequences, but he's on both sides. It's like, take it for like this. God's playing chess with God. So he's playing chess with himself. See what I'm saying? That's what he's doing. No matter what you may see it or perceive it to be, that's how it is. Because if the devil is basically fighting against us and God is saying we are more powerful than the devil, then God knows, obviously, that we know, or that we should know, how to foresee ourselves, right, in the light of the devil, because we are created with four elements. We have Him in us, so we are Him. You know, anything else is non existent. Your flesh is temporary, right? Your flesh is temporary. You see, your spirit is the only power source that when it's growing, it gets more powerful. So it's more powerful as it grows. It doesn't age. Like, the more it ages, the more powerful it becomes. That's your soul. But your flesh, the more it grows, the weaker it becomes. Your mind, the more it grows, the weaker it becomes. That means the mechanisms, right? The tissues, the mechanisms is still, what's it called? Is weak. That means it's temporary. But your soul is eternal, regardless if it's eternal happiness and love and care, or eternal evil, means eternal punishment. But it is a choice that you must make. And you must be able to explain yourself, but understand it is not your physical, because the things, like the excuses and the things that people are going to try to use to explain themselves, it's going to be of the world. But God does not want to hear that. You see what I'm saying? He doesn't want to hear that, because He knows exactly why you did what you did. And He also knows the opportunities that were presented to you from Him. So there is a major difference in how you perceive things, or what you should do as an individual. Because guess what? Your life is valuable, but is valuable to who? Who is it valuable to? Yes, it's valuable to yourself, but what about God? Does God see you saying, the power of me putting myself in you, what have you done to ignite that power? Because God has sowed the seed. That means all of us is like a seed of Himself inside of us. He said, you know what? I'm going to put myself inside of you. However, I'm going to even the playing field and give you a chance to make your own decisions. So that means Him, He has put limitation until you increase the position of power that He has put inside of you. That means Himself is unlimited. But until you have tapped into that source of power, right, you have limitations. Because the limitations is due to your understanding. And you being able to what? Faith. Faith is the, what's it called? The key of your imagination. You see what I'm saying? It's the key to open your imagination. Faith. That's what faith is. So, because Jesus Christ gave the key, right? He said, I'm going to leave you guys with a gift. Now, the gift is the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is dwelling inside of every single person as a guide. Now, we all know, just like a GPS, right? It tells you, okay, this is what you must do. So it gives you sort of like a message, or a message, whether it's vocal or type written message. All of that is given to you. You have the choice to either follow that or don't follow that. But it's due to what you do, meaning how much time you spend with God. So then your GPS will be charged. The Holy Spirit within you would be charged, and you'll be able to do certain things. But there are certain times where you might not understand what you are doing, right? Not because you're not mentally there or anything, but spiritual is about the belief, the faith. So it could be new to your understanding. But make no mistake, the guide sees what you don't see. The guide understands what you don't understand. You see what I'm saying? A lot of people didn't understand when Jesus Christ was getting mad. He got upset in the temple and he starts throwing over the tables and releasing the what's it called? The animals in their stable, the goats, the doves, and all of that. And he said to the Pharisees, do not turn my father's house into, you know, a market. Don't tell, no, don't turn my father's house into a market, right? He was doing spiritual work there. See what I'm saying? At that moment. But they seen it as, oh, why is he getting mad? Why is he doing this? It's because they turn it into a what? A business, right? But it's not, you're not, you, like if you turn it into a business, right? Business on the physical side is good, but spiritual side is not meant to be a business. It is family, it is togetherness, right? All of those things show in business, but is only to a level of degree. But when it's togetherness, when it's connectivity, when it's relationship beyond, work related levels, then it creates deeper love. But the faith makes you unique. You see what I'm saying? Because a lot of times the Holy Spirit will give you words or show you visions and understandings and all of these things or situations. And the Holy Spirit wants to know your insight. Like, what do you perceive? Because the Holy Spirit, right, is helping your spirit grow, right? Helping your spirit to understand certain things. A lot of situations could be presented to you from a certain perspective, but it might not be the right perspective. On the physical aspect, it might make sense in a specific way. Like, okay, it's gonna make sense that you might cross the street, today, right? It is just an example. But if the Holy Spirit says, you know what, don't cross the street, walk along the what's it called? The trail path and cross the bridge, but don't cross the street. You might look at the trail path and say, well, the trail path is gonna take me 10 more minutes to be able to get to my destination. But if I cross the street, that's like 10 seconds. Why am I going to go to the trail path and just cross the street? Why not do that? Well, you never know. You might cross the street and all of a sudden an accident took place and you're injured. I'm not saying that that is that and then you're injured, right? Or you could have just went on the trail path, took 10 extra minutes, right? It took your time, but you're not injured, you're healthy, and you're okay, and you learned a lesson. My point is this: it is the faith that you must have behind your imagination that will help you to be unique and very important to God. This is something that you must walk with God. You must do things, spend time. I feel like there's a lot of situations where a lot of people are, busy trying to steal certain aspects of people, saying, well, I can do it like the Babylonian times, and take certain what's it called, spiritual gifts and things from people. Every, all those things, all those things don't make any sense, simply because you have your own, and you'll be judged the same, and it won't evolve you as an individual, because guess what, everybody has their way of being. Meaning, yes, the same soul that is in you is in me, but which one is intensified? You know what I mean? We can eat the same food, but it would taste different to me than to you. Do you see what I mean? Meaning that we could wear the same type of shoes, but the same color, everything, same brand, but not the same size. Even if it was the same size, still, my balance is different from your balance. You see what I'm saying? So there's always a uniqueness to every specific individual. That is how God knows us like. And He always compares us to the sheeps, you know what I mean, in the stable. So understand your abilities, choose to use them wisely. You will get ridiculed for it, because Jesus said, the world did not like me. The world is not going to like you. Because guess what? You're going to change things. You're going to be influential. And a lot of people